What's up everybody, Noah from Stage 3 Motorsports here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to install these AlphaRex Nova Series headlights in your 2018 to 2020 F150. Now, the ones we have here are the Midnight Edition, so they're super blacked out, but that's really only a visual change. This install is going to be the same whether you have ones that are just a regular black or any other color version of this light. So we'll walk you through all the steps on that. It's also worth mentioning though that this is our 2020 giveaway F150 that we're doing the install on. So you can win this whole truck and all the mods we've done to it, ready to go. And all you have to do is just check out the giveaway link down in the description. That's gonna have what you need to get entered. You essentially just have to punch in your email to get a chance to win it. There's no money, you don't have to buy entries or anything like that. So it's definitely a really cool giveaway and certainly worth taking a look at. But with all that out of the way, let's get right into this install. So the first thing we gotta do is pop back this little Fender flare trim piece on the outside edge, and we're gonna take a 7mm socket here and remove a screw on the inside of the fender, and then we can actually use some body tools to pry this back from the plastic here once we have this off. I am gonna put a little bit of blue painter's tape along this, so that way as I'm prying, I'm not chipping up the paint along this little front valance. You should be able to just use a couple of cheap plastic body pry tools here to get this off. So as you can see, we've got this popped out now, so it's free from this little trim valance piece that goes underneath the headlights. You're gonna wanna do the same thing on the other side, so that way this whole piece is free. Now on both sides, you're gonna wanna pull back your fender flare, and then inside the fender here, you're gonna see another extra little black clip. We're just gonna use this pry tool to kind of pop the top of it out a little. Then we can get underneath the clip behind it, and we'll just pop this out all the way. With both of those black clips removed, we can start to just kind of pry this valance free from the truck. So if you get your hand behind it, there's some just kind of pressure fitted plastic clips that are holding it. So we're gonna start popping it out here. Great. Next up, we've got to remove this shroud over the top of the radiator and grille section. So you're gonna have a couple of these little plastic clips just scattered around this. You do want to make sure you take off these two for the intake snorkel because they're actually holding the shroud as well. And there's kind of a hidden one back here. So we'll work through that and then we can work on actually unbolting the grille itself. With the shroud off, you can see that there's actually a sensor here that's going to the grille shutters on the inside. So I'm gonna pop this up so that harness is off there, unplug it, and then we're also gonna remove these 4 screws at the top just to get this free. And we'll have another 2 that are lower on the grille that we'll show you in a minute. Underneath the headlight here, there's a screw on each side that's also holding the grille. Those are gonna be an 8mm and the ones at the top are 10. Once you've got all the screws off there, this whole grille should essentially pull straight out. It's just got a couple more plastic clips that are pressure fitted in that are holding it to the truck. So we're gonna wiggle it free. It's one of those things that's probably a little easier said than done, but once that's out, then we'll have full access to our headlights. We are finally able to start removing the headlights themselves now. So at the top, there's gonna be a little plastic pin here. We're gonna pry that out. And then we've also got these two 10mm screws that we need to remove. Underneath the light down here, we've got an 8mm and a 10mm that also need to be removed. There's one last little 10mm down here in the corner of the light that's going through the fender. Something that's easy to miss when you're trying to pull the light out is that you actually need to come back down to the bottom, and if you get a pry tool in here on this plastic, there's two clips right there. You can see now they're kind of pushed out. These two clips will hold that thing in and connect it to this duct that goes through the fender. So if you don't get these, you're gonna sit here and pull on it and it's just not gonna give. So once these are out of the way, you can kind of pop them forward a little bit. That way they're not hanging onto the light. And then from there, we're gonna pull the light out towards us because there is another pin back here in the fender that's kind of holding it on. Just like that. There we go. And now the light is free, so we just gotta undo the wiring from the back. So before we just plug in the new AlphaRex headlights, I wanted to make a quick point to show that these are actually plug and play lights and you don't have to do any wiring, but you are gonna get an extra harness when you buy these as a kit. Now, what this harness is for is the DRLs basically have the ability where you can add this harness to the system and it's gonna change the intensity of the light that they put out. So that way during the daytime, you could get them to put out a little bit more high intensity light. It'll be a little bit brighter, whereas during the night, it can tone them back a bit so they look more normal. It's one of those things where it's not a required feature. The harness doesn't have to be installed. It's just an option that AlphaRex provides. We're probably not gonna use it in this truck, but the rest of the stuff is here. You can see that these are gonna plug right into our factory connectors and you won't lose any other functionality. It'll still do the startup sequence. You're still gonna have high and low beams. Everything's gonna look the way it should. It's just one of those little details. If you really want that intensity change, you can do the harness. Next up, we got to get the grill back in place now that our headlights are all mounted. So I'm going to push it in, make sure all the pins are set, and then once again, just like the lights, we're going to reuse all the factory hardware. So we'll screw it in from the top, plug in the harness for our shutters, and then we can also get that shroud on here too. All right, I've got the grill mounted in here. Everything's good to go. We have the shroud on top of it now. So the last thing to do is to get this trim piece underneath the grill and the headlights. And then we can also push our little fender flares back in, add those clips and screws that we took out, and this should be pretty much set. So I'm gonna put that all back together and we will be looking good. All right, guys, that is gonna be a wrap on this install for the AlphaRex Nova Series headlights in our F150. As you can see, they look amazing in here. It's definitely a huge upgrade over the halogens, and not only do they look a lot better, but these are also gonna have way better light output and a much more focused beam, so I think that's gonna be a great fit for this truck, and I'm really excited for whoever is gonna win this thing. So with that being said, obviously, head down below, check out our giveaway page so you can get entered to win this truck with all the goodies that we've put on it. And it's worth mentioning that if you haven't already watched that review on these headlights, we did do a review of the regular black version on our other gray F150. So we'll link to that video as well if you want to take a look at that. It's obviously not exactly the same headlight, the coloring's slightly different, but all the actual internals and the light output and everything else are identical. So definitely worth taking a peek at. And with all that being said, I will see you guys next time.